So I just got out of seeing the new movie, The Sound of Freedom, and boy, oh boy, I have a lot to say about this one. This movie has seemingly come out of nowhere, being a massive box office hit, but also being a massive controversial movie for some reason. This is a movie that I actually usually wouldn't see, just because of how much controversy is around it. It seemed like the type of movie that was made just to satisfy a political audience. And there's a lot of this movies on both sides of the aisle, both right-wing and left-wing, movies that are literally just made to appeal to one political side, one political base, and those movies just don't usually speak to me on either side of the equation. So usually I skip them, and I really thought this was going to be one of those movies. I mean, just the title of the movie, The Sound of Freedom, the poster, and then just like a lot of the controversies and the stuff coming out of it, it just didn't seem like it was going to be something that I would enjoy. But fortunately for me, I was sent a free ticket, so I said, fuck it, let's go see what it's all about. Let's see why all this noise is being made about this. And like I said, I have a lot to say about this one. Before I get started, just make sure to like this video and subscribe. Also, turn on notifications to see more. I'm going to be uploading a lot in the next couple weeks. Okay, let's get right into it. So The Sound of Freedom was directed by Alejandro Gomez Monteverde, and it stars Jim Caviezel. You'll know him from other movies like The Passion of the Christ and some other stuff that he's done. It was produced by Mel Gibson as well, and it was released by Angel Studios. It's a very low-key company. The film was originally supposed to be released by Disney, but they shelved the movie because of course they did. And the film essentially is about a Homeland Security agent who goes down to Colombia to help rescue and shut down sex trafficking rings. So is this movie good? Let me answer that first before I kind of get into my ranting discussion on the whole thing. Yes, this movie is borderline amazing. I do have some problems with it, but most of my problems are on the technical side of things. But I just want to talk about the movie and the themes of what it's trying to say and show. The movie is loosely based on a true story, and even if it was completely fictional, I mean, what the movie is covering is definitely something that's very relevant towards our world today, and it's something that's true. I mean, if you don't believe that kids are being sex trafficked across the world, I mean, there are numbers and statistics to back this up beyond our fucking comprehension. And this movie shows what is happening to these kids and shows how they're taken and what happens, what's going on, and it does it in a way that just doesn't really exploit it. It doesn't show us, but it gives us enough to understand the horrors of the situation. And it really is impactful when you see these kids and you see what they're going through and you see the effort to try to free them and how deep it goes and how complex these networks are. The movie handles it really well. I wouldn't say like as impactful as the way like Schindler's List handled like the Holocaust or like Requiem for a Dream handled drug addiction, but it does it enough to really leave an impact, which I think is the overall goal of this movie. It wants you to walk away understanding what is going on around the world and really feeling the impact of this child sex trafficking. I also really like the score of the film, even though I think it's kind of like an identity crisis at different points. There's like 3 different soundtracks going on here for 3 different movies, but all of them are good. Like there's one part that really has like a Last of Us vibe. There's another part of this the score that kind of feels like Avengers Infinity War when Thanos is sitting at the end of the movie. There's like some Joker vibes in here, but overall the soundtrack really works. I also think the direction of the movie was great. I thought there were really good setups. A lot of the shot, the movie was shot really well. The lighting was great. I think the final scene of this movie, the final shots mixed with the score that kind of runs in and then you get those final texts, kind of detailing the true stories and the statistics. I thought that final scene was absolutely brilliant, and it was the moment of the scene, and it was the first moment of the whole movie I really got goosebumps and I got chills, and it really kind of like sat over me what I had just watched, and it was really awesome. This is a movie that's really going to connect with general audiences too. Like when this movie ended and the lights came up, half my theater was crying. I mean, it's a movie that's really going to impact those general movie viewers. And overall, this movie just handles its subject matter with so much respect and so much ease, and it does it in a way to both impact the audience as well as inform the audience of what's going on. It's not just there for impact value, it's there to inform you and also give a little bit of hope. Hope that there are good people out there trying to fight this, and hope that you can, that there are things happening to try to stop this, but also just informing you that it is really bad and it is something that is going on in this world that really needs to be dealt with. And this is not a subject matter or a theme that is covered in Hollywood nearly enough, and it's really bizarre that a movie like this would get shelved, and it's really bizarre that it would get covered by the media the way that it is, and it is just kind of concerning that Hollywood has done this to this movie, but I'll get more into that in a second. First, I do want to list some of my cons because I don't think this is a perfect movie. I'm going to criticize this movie from a technical aspect. I think the pacing of this movie is a little bit weird. I think the first half of this movie and the second half of this movie, it's almost 2 completely different movies. Like the first act feels like Denis Villeneuve's Prisoners, and then it just kind of like transforms into what feels kind of like Narcos in a way. And it's not just because they go to Colombia, it's the sound design and everything in that section of the movie. The whole movie's tone just kind of shifts, and I don't know if that completely worked for me. Also, the characters at times just felt a little too fantastical, and what I mean by that is a lot of them just didn't feel as real as I wanted them to at times. Like a lot of the bad guys in this movie just, I don't know, it just didn't feel as grounded and as real as I wanted it to, and I feel like if those characters felt a little more grounded, it would have really made the impact of what's going on around them just work a little bit more. I also think the editing near the end of the movie was a little iffy. There were some editing decisions that I just did not understand, where it kind of like took us away from the action going on screen and just kind of cut to black, and you didn't even really hear it. They didn't really utilize the sound design to allow you to hear what's going on. They just blacked out the screen, and then they show you a little bit and then black out there were moments like that I wasn't a big fan of editing wise. But other than that, like, those are really just my small complaints, just some little things. Technically, it's not a perfect movie, but a movie of this size, you can't expect it to be technically perfect, a technical slam dunk like something like Schindler's List, which was directed by Steven Spielberg. But with a movie like this, it has such strong subject matter and such an important message and important things to say to its audience. You could forgive the technical things that aren't perfect. You could forgive a script that's maybe a little bit messy. Because at the end of the day, it's a movie that is never boring, and it's a movie that really grips your soul and grips your heart and delivers its message the exact way that it wanted to, and you leave the movie feeling exactly the way that the people that made this movie wanted you to feel. Because of that, I'm gonna give this movie a 4 out of 5. It is really, really great, and I recommend seeing it, especially when currently you look at theaters. What are your other options? Indiana Jones? No, don't see Indiana Jones. If you're going to see a movie this weekend, see this, or Mission Impossible. I haven't seen it yet, but I'm feeling like Mission Impossible is probably gonna be pretty good. And here's my rant really quick, because there is something disgusting going on with how the media is covering this thing. Usually I wouldn't really get into this, because when I see the media covering it one way, whatever, you know, I kind of bought into it. I saw the coverage of this thing being called a QAnon, right-wing extremist movie, and that kind of rubbed me like, I don't really want to see this movie. But there is nothing political about this movie, either way, right-wing, left-wing. There is absolutely nothing about this movie that is political by any means necessary, and the fact that there are some media outlets, and I'm not saying a lot of them, because the movie is getting critically acclaimed. I think it has like an 80% on Rotten Tomatoes, but there are some media outlets, and I'm going to show you some clips right now, some headlines, whatever, that are just absolutely tearing this movie apart because of its right-wing leaning conspiracies or whatever, and this is just, to me, absolutely disgusting. I think it is fair game to criticize this movie from a technical aspect, to criticize it, like, but the way that they're criticizing it, to say that what's going on in this movie to these kids is not a message and not something worth making a movie about, and to say that these are things that aren't actually real and that conspiracy theories, this is mind-blowing, and it really makes you question the morality of some of the people that are working in these high-level media positions. And that's the main thing I took away from this movie. I really walked away with a disgusting taste in my mouth, not because of the movie, but because of the way that Hollywood and other media outlets have reacted to this movie, because this is just, it is mind-blowing. This isn't a fucking political movie that's trying to make you lean more right or lean more left. It's not throwing political messaging. It's simply a movie covering the disgusting and atrocious aspects of child sex trafficking that are going on all around the world, and for some reason that has really pushed some people in the media the wrong way. They just are disgusted by the conspiracy theory that kids might be getting sex trafficked. Meanwhile, Rolling Stones and other media outlets praising the movie Cuties. I mean, it's just absolutely disgraceful and disgusting, and I don't want to ever have to rant like this on this channel again. I don't ever want to get political or anything like that, but it needs to be said that what these media outlets are doing, and the fact that Disney scrapped this movie and nobody for 5 years wanted to produce or distribute this movie, is an absolute disgrace. The same people who refused to produce and distribute this movie are also the same companies that dealt with Harvey Weinstein's ass for 30 plus years, worked with him, produced all of his movies. The same people writing trash about this movie are the same ones that praised Harvey Weinstein's work despite knowing exactly what he was doing, and the fact that that can go on and then they can go ahead and trash a movie like this, to me, is just disgraceful. And I promise you, there is absolutely nothing political about this movie, because I'm not somebody that gets political in my movies. If a movie leans too far right or too far left, I typically don't like it. I'm not the type of guy that likes to be lectured either way. I like to be centered in politics. If you have a message in a movie that is a little bit political, deliver it with more ease, you know, in a subtle way. I don't like being lectured, and a lot of these movies that get this kind of attention are movies that lecture their audience. And this is not one of them. This is one of the least political movies I've seen this year. I mean, for fuck's sake, Insidious: The Red Door had more political lecturing in it than this. But yeah, that's my rant. Hopefully I don't have to ever rant about anything like that in this channel again, but sometimes I just get really mad, and I just saw this movie, and these are just kind of my fresh thoughts, so I had to let it out. But The Sound of Freedom, make sure to go see it. It is a great movie, 4 out of 5. Let me know if you have seen it. Let me know your comments down below. And yeah, please make sure to like this video and subscribe for more. Turn on notifications, and I will see y'all in the next one.